Alrighty, so just a quick example, hopefully to make you feel more comfortable. This is like a T-cab I did, obviously. This guy has a couple more magnets than most because I wanted my T-cabs to be able to come off the saddle to be storable. So all my T-cabs have one in the bum. uh, but yeah, that's not even necessary. That was just to like store them. This guy also I did at the hip, so he can swap it with a captain torso, and then also the arms. The arms are the main ones. These are the 2x4 mil magnets, and literally I just go ahead and I take just like size match a bit. You know what I mean? Like these bits are actually a little bit slightly smaller than the 4 mil, so that I think these are about 3 mil bit, and this is just like a woodworking bit, and as you can see it's got a bit of a pointed arrowhead shaped tip. And then once I kind of pre-drill the hole with that, maintaining like a firm grip with your hand that's holding the model, because sometimes when you're punching through it'll kind of grab and sort of take them for a ride out of your fingers. So you kind of want to make sure you got a firm grip, maybe not even before painting and stuff like that, right? Like while you're assembling is the best, most ideal way to do it. This guy was done post painting, so that's why you can see the magnet there. Guys who were done before primer, it really hides like even the magnet there. But yeah, I just pre-drill the hole with the pointed woodworking kind of bit, and then after I come in with the same width of bit, but this one has a flat head to it, and I don't know if it's quite the same for you there wherever you're at in Australia and stuff, across the world, but we use these for doing drywall, and the idea for the router bit is to punch through the drywall but not damage anything behind the drywall, like wiring or framing or anything like that. And it's just to like do a circle cutting out like electrical outlets. So it's really meant for sideways action cutting versus like drilling down. When I first did my first couple magnets, I actually just used this bit, and it does work fine. It just takes quite a bit longer to punch through for your depth. One of the things with doing magnets is making sure that they sit really, really flush so they don't show in the armpit or at the joint when the two magnet halves, like your corresponding arm is on there. You don't want to see like silver in the guy's armpit of like the two halves of the magnets because they're sticking up a little bit high. I counteract that by sort of like when I'm putting them on, I come in with a non-metal tool that's like you could honestly use a popsicle stick or something, and just something that sits wider than your hole, because inside they're going to be hollow. So you never want to like punch your magnet all the way in, all the way through, and then have to dig it out of the body, out of the torso. So just kind of like when you're doing it, you just sort of like have something that's wider than the hole, and you sort of roll it over that, and just make sure, like a rolling pin, and you just make sure that it's sitting really nice and deep, but also flush. You could go in a tiny bit extra, like it doesn't have to be flush. It could go in a little bit farther than it's supposed to, as long as you don't like push it right into the middle of the torso, like I was saying, right? But that's just minor things. Like you'll encounter these things like as you go, and you'll just learn how to deal. And like I've had to dig out a few, and I usually just take like a sharp box cutter, hobby knife, whatever, and I'll sort of go in at the seam, and I'll like flick the magnet out, right? Or like if I'm test fitting a magnet, like I'll test fit before super gluing them into place. I'll like get it in so deep that I have to flick it out, like using the tip of a hobby knife. That's why this one's all chipped up from kind of catching the edges and just flicking them out to get them out, and then put a little glue on them and then stick them back in. That way they just sit where I want them to, and I'm never worried about punching them through to the torso, or maybe the hole was pre-drilled a little wider than you needed it to be. You don't want them coming out and then being on the other, you know, on the corresponding half, like on the arm or something. You want them staying where they're supposed to sit, right? Another thing when you're doing it is use a marker. And I kind of did my first guy. I did them like left and right, opposite polarity. That way you can't like accidentally put, like you never would, but you can't accidentally put the left arm, like it actually is sitting off to the side. It repels, so they're like polarities on the opposite arms. So to keep your polarity the same the whole way through, you don't necessarily know positive and negative, but you have no way to test that. Just do one model, and then every time you go to do the next model, you just set your magnets up on your guy that's already done, right? And you'll just put like a dot. You'll just come in and you'll take a permanent marker. I have like a write on any surface Sharpie from contracting that writes on oily surfaces and whatnot. That's a little bit better than a regular Sharpie, but anything will work. Any way to mark that with a Sharpie or something like that, to just put a dot there, maybe a plus sign, maybe a little minus sign. I was doing L and R for like left and right. And then that way you're always keeping like which way the magnet is supposed to be oriented correct, because that's one of the issues people might run into if you're just kind of going ham and magnetizing really fast and just going quickly. You might accidentally put repelling like the same polarity on the arm. You want to go on that side, right? So you always want the arms, like if this is a left arm, I usually would put L, so I know that that's my polarity for left. And then when I'm putting that L polarity magnet that's marked into the torso, I make sure the L is facing me. That's why this one you can almost see the mark underneath the dried super glue. But I put the L facing me, and if I was doing the corresponding arm, I'd make sure that the L was put to the inside so I didn't see it. That way I knew that they're opposite polarity, positive, negative polarities, and they would connect. Right? So that was a handy trick someone told me right when because I seen my buddy's army, he plays Black Templars, and but they used really small magnets. He commissioned it, and the guy used really small magnets, and he's a great guy, but again, just coming from like sort of contract world, I was just like, let's put the biggest size to fit the area, and that's kind of my rule of thumb with going up to vehicles. If it's a big tank turret, you're gonna want a bigger magnet to make sure that tank turret stays like on and secure, because it has more like weight, and you know what I mean. Just use the area that you have available, use the space, right, that you have to hide your magnets. Buddy who did that dreadnought did a beautiful job. I haven't done a dreadnought yet. I've done a Invictor Warsuit. I did his one arm and his hip joint, so for storage, and his one arm because it swaps between the flamer and the like the autocannon on the Invictor Warsuit. But then a lot of my guys, like Blood Claws and stuff, can take they turn into Sky Claws just by taking a jump pack, right? So I have a lot of backpacks done with the 2x4mm as well, and same thing, just pre-drill a hole, widen the hole out with the sideways cutting bit, and then just mark off your magnets so you're always paying attention to your polarities. Yeah, just need to try it, man. Try it on a model you don't care about at first, and you'll see it's not that hard, and your confidence will build as you do them, right, and as you go.